All right, everybody always loved my shirt. I don't know if you can see it, but people always compliment me on this shirt. It's in reverse, but ever make mistakes in life, let's try to make them birds. And if you know anything about this, I forgot his name, y'all gonna kill me, but he always, he used to paint live, and whenever he used to make a mistake, whatever, he used to cover it up by making it a butterfly. And he was painting live, so it's like a rapper freestyling or a writer writing a story, I guess live. It's really hard to duplicate what an artist does in painting and drawing in other forms, because even in other forms of drawing, a pencil, you have an eraser, so this is very permanent, and it's very different. So kind of this post or this video blog is kind of about writers and creators, right? Because even in photographers and painters, singers and songwriters, instrumental musicians, they can all have a political expression, and they can all have something. They all can have something to say politically, and make a statement, right? So this blog is about that. I've always been a person, probably since my early teens, joining the organization, the NAACP, and 15 years old, that cared about other people. I don't know why. If you call me and you talking to me about what you want to do, I can help you put a business plan together better than I can help myself. And that's been a struggle of mine, trying to really focus on myself. But I've always cared about others and the world around me, in addition to myself, because it's not that it's not my world, it is, the world around me, an extension of myself. And when it comes to writing science fiction, I feel that responsibility as well. I feel the need to think of the world around me, things that will impact the world, what's going to happen with the world, in a way that it would allow us to look at what we're doing and kind of guide ourselves to the best outcome possible. Meaning that we just don't arrive at a particular future, right? We make the future that we would like to see. And if we end up in a future that is not like what is good for us, then accepting our responsibility that we made it, and either figure out a way to change it or stop complaining about it and accept it. And I've always seen that as something that I wanted to involve myself with, whether it was changing the present, which really you can't change the present because it's going on now. You can't change the past. You can only change the future. And how do you change the future? If you have a present problem, you try to figure out how to not avoid the problem. If you have the next time, right? If it's a reoccurring problem, bring an end to what's causing it, right? So you got to look at the causes of it, or head off a problem that you might see getting worse and trying to prevent it from ever happening. It's like, oh my God, these two people, they're going to argue if they sit next to each other. So when you're planning your wedding invitations in your seating chart, you don't sit the people next to each other. You try to keep them as far apart as you can from each other. It's like Wendy Williams was telling some twins on the TV on her show that had to go visit their mother and their father, but they were separated and they both remarried. And Thanksgiving was a big challenge. So Wendy said, why don't you go visit your mother for the meal, and then the second meal and drinks, you go visit your father, and that worked out. So that's an example of how you can, use a present problem or an upcoming problem and offer a solution to it. Dang, I hope y'all can see me. I'm sorry. It's the sunlight. I should have taped it when I was going in the other direction. But still in all, that's what I like to do with sci-fi. I think of Robert Heinlein. I think of Asimov. Isaac Asimov, said his name wrong. My man, that a lot of people don't, we all might take issues, right? Because I don't agree with him 100%. Who wrote Ender's Game. God, I can't remember his name. Sheesh. Alan Dean, something configuration of that, right? But all these writers, Asimov wrote about robots and how that would impact our world and the cautionary tales. Robert Heinlein wrote about kind of everything, sometimes he took some crazy heat for it. I read Farnham's Freehold, suggesting that black people are going to take over the world and eat everybody, or eat white people and use the women as breeders. Is crazy, but that's what he said in his book, right? I think that is our job. I think of George Orwell in his book 1984, or his book Animal Farm, and how they said certain things about our future and where we were going in terms of human and civilian and government rights. Wow, that's important. That's powerful, but I think that's what we need to do. I think we need to speak up, say our different opinions, and definitely keep it moving, right? Or offer some suggestions and make people think about it, right? I made a post, right? And I'm going to use this as an example. I made a post where I said, and I hope I get it right, but the post is still up so people can see it. I said, I want to write a story called Homeschool World. And then I said, where the students, don't know how to socialize. I think, and again, people took offense to, some people, some people took offense to it, and I'll get into that in a second too, what they thought I was saying. And now, my story is going to even be more advanced than that. And sometimes I don't put all of the story out on social media. I put a little bit of what I'm trying to do so that way people don't steal it, right? And write your ideas, even though I'm not worried about that 100% either. But I put a little bit out to see what people will think, and how people's reactions are to it. And a lot of the negative reactions came from people who were homeschooling their children. And I accept that, no doubt, but I've been a school teacher and I worked in education in the cumulative years over 17 years. But the first 10 years I was just a substitute teacher, right? I did get a look at it, but I was in my 20s. I didn't really pay as much attention. But then the last 7 years, I was in education formally as a teacher and a behavioral tech and IS instructor, but that probably was more like a mentor or anything else. But I was definitely on the school disciplinary team. And I worked in middle schools, high schools, and I even worked in elementary school, right? So I have an idea, and I worked in public school and charter. So I have an idea, a little bit of that. And I even worked in a black independent school, right? One summer I worked there. Have a little experience with that, not 100%, but I don't think it's vastly different in structure than other school systems, right? And or structures, right? So in that, I had a real good look, especially my last year, was my only year teaching high school. I had students more than ever before have socializing problems. And this is all the way up to 13, 14, 15, and 16 years old. Students that were graduating high school, 17 years old, still had problems socializing that stemmed from either social media addictions or, overuse. I ain't gonna say a media addiction, right? Because that's clinical, but just a real strong use of social media. And sometimes it came from homeschool. And I never had noticed it before. I started doing research on it, and wow, it hit home. And I started looking at other kids that I know and the problems that they have growing up. And I was like, man, when homeschooling works, you got a bunch of siblings, you take your child out, you take them and integrate them on the field trips and all that. But if you look at homeschooling as a separatist form of schooling and isolated schooling, it can be a nightmare. So as a blessing, it's cool, no doubt. But if you look at this climate of political interpretation where, Barack Obama might say one thing, Trump may say something else, and people see both of those statements 4 different ways. If you like Trump, you're going to agree with there was millions of people at his inauguration. If you don't like Trump, you may say there was only a couple 100,000, and diabolically agree and go deeper into it, and not only say this was my interpretation, but this is so right that the rest is strategically and purposefully wrong, and beyond wrong, they're evil, and they're holding us good viewers back. This is how far we've gone. So if you can imagine what that can do to a homeschooling environment, it can, plant seeds for the biggest civil war in the world, where you have people teaching their children their interpretation of a particular act, of a particular activity or action. You know what I'm saying? Something that happened, 2 sides see it so different that they actually teach that the other side is, whichever side it is, right? The other side is evil and oppressive, and that's why they see it different than us. I think that's dangerous. Forget about math, forget about biology. You can't get too politically, too much political opinion. Although in biology, you could probably have a vegan family that wants to experiment and learn biology through plastic and rubber frogs. And then you have another one that's like, forget that, we are hunters, we are sports fishers, and now we are going to dissect real frogs. Hell, we'll dissect cats, we'll dissect dogs. What will stop us, right? We'll go to the morgue and, and play around with human bodies. So you have those 2 different schools open to develop a greater reach, right? And so they could become diabolically opposed and against each other. All of that is, kind of what I feel could be used as an example to where we're going, right, as a society. Not to say, homeschooling's evil or universal curriculums are evil, right? But we have to come to a balance and understand, extremeness is what's bad. I think when we start thinking of extremities, isolation, those things are bad. I think group schooling is not bad. And group schooling doesn't mean everybody has to sit and talk to everybody, but it does mean that we have to understand that we need to have some form of consensus, right? So we got to have a group curriculum, a basic understanding of at least what the facts were. and then we can move on and away from there in terms of different forms of interpretations. But I don't know, and I haven't fully played this idea out yet, but I want to as one idea, right? But there's many ideas, and there's different subjects on this. You can go environment, you can go robots, right? Like we were talking earlier, like I mentioned earlier. So it doesn't have to be schools, but what I think is important is that we as science fiction writers and we as a community start thinking these things. I didn't really get to why I think people misinterpreted, some people, right? Not all people, misinterpreted what I said, or not necessarily misinterpreted. Maybe they were right and I'm wrong, right? Interpreted it, what I said, the way they interpreted it. Okay, because it was said, I want to create a story. I want to write a story. Stories are not true. Stories are fiction. If I want to tell a story about something that happened to me, then that's also personal, right? But if I'm saying I'm writing a story, I want to write a story, that means it's fiction. I'm telling a story. I'm a science fiction writer. It's redundant to say I'm going to speculate about a situation and write a story. There's too many characters for sometimes on the Facebook and the Instagram posts. So try to be very concise, and I think that's a problem also. But my next one, I'll talk about a little bit why I think people misinterpret science fiction, because I think that's really what it was. So I'm out. This was long. Peace.